Dub Nation, stop what you're doing because what broke on live television this morning could change everything for the Golden State Warriors. And if this report is even close to true, the entire Western Conference needs to pay attention right now. Before we go any further, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and jump into the comments. Because today we are talking about a moment so chaotic, so unexpected, and so potentially franchise-shifting that Warriors fans are still trying to figure out whether they just witnessed a media meltdown, a leak, or the first real sign of Golden State's next big move. Here's the crazy part. This did not come from a quiet front office whisper, or from some random rumor floating around social media. This exploded on live national television, right in the middle of a debate, with cameras rolling and millions of people watching. The conversation was already heating up around the Warriors and their off-season, around Steph Curry's championship window, around whether Golden State still has enough firepower to make one more serious run. And then everything changed in one instant. Stephen A. Smith, in the middle of the segment, made the claim that the Warriors were in serious discussions to acquire Deni Avdija. The reaction in the studio was immediate. Pushback, skepticism, the kind of laughter that says, "No chance, that cannot be real." But instead of backing off, instead of doing what most people would do on live TV and moving on, he doubled down. He grabbed his phone, called a source on speaker, and suddenly the entire conversation went from hot take television to absolute chaos. That source, apparently unaware they were now part of a live broadcast, did not sound hesitant. The source spoke openly, directly, and with stunning specificity. The message was clear. The Warriors were not casually checking in. They were engaged. They believed Avdija fit the system. They believed his passing, feel for the game, versatility, and contract value made him an ideal target. And then came the line that sent everything into another dimension. The Warriors reportedly see him as a kind of Draymond Green archetype with significantly more scoring punch. That is not a small comparison. That is a massive statement. So let's slow this down and really unpack why this matters. Because whether you believe every detail of the television chaos or not, the basketball logic behind this idea is impossible to ignore. Deni Avdija is not being viewed the way he was a few years ago. He is no longer just a young player with promise, no longer just a smart wing with flashes, no longer just a name team's mention in passing. In this version of the story, he has evolved into a true impact player, an all-star level talent, a multi-dimensional forward who can handle the ball, score, pass, defend, and raise the overall intelligence of an offense. For Golden State, that profile is not just attractive, it is almost custom-built. Think about what the Warriors still are at their core. Even now, with all the changes, all the wear and tear, all the questions about age and depth and sustainability, this is still a team built on movement, reads, timing, and trust. Steph Curry bends defenses like no other player in basketball. Draymond Green still sees plays before they happen. Steve Kerr's offense still depends on players who can make fast decisions without freezing the ball. Golden State does not just need talent. They need the right kind of talent. They need players who understand how to connect the system instead of clogging it. That is why the Avdija idea feels so fascinating. He is the kind of player who can keep possessions alive. He can catch at the elbow, read a cutter, swing the ball, attack a closeout, or make the extra pass that turns a decent look into a great one. He can operate as a secondary creator, and on certain nights maybe even as a primary initiator for stretches. That matters because one of the Warriors' biggest issues over the last few seasons has been what happens when Steph is forced off the ball without another true connector controlling the action. Too often, the offense gets stuck. Too often, the possession becomes reactive instead of fluid. A player like Avdija could change that. And let's talk about scoring, because this is where the fit becomes even more intriguing. Draymond has been the brain, the engine, the emotional thermostat of the dynasty, but teams have long been willing to help off him and dare him to beat them as a scorer. That changes spacing. That changes defensive choices. That changes how aggressively opponents can blitz Curry. But if you replace that offensive pressure point with a player who can actually punish those decisions, then the entire equation shifts. Now the helper becomes the hunted. Now the second defender has to think twice. Now Steph gets a little more oxygen, a little more daylight, and for the rest of the league, that is a nightmare. If you watched the Warriors recently, you saw the signs that the soul of this team is still alive. You saw Steph explode when the moment got big. You saw Draymond lock in defensively and remind everyone that his impact goes way beyond the box score. You saw the role players making hustle plays, flying around, competing, turning 50-50 balls into momentum. The fight is still there. The pride is still there. The championship memory is still there. But heart alone does not get you through 4 playoff rounds in the West. At some point, you need more two-way size, more creation, more athletic versatility, and more margin for error. That is why this rumor hits such a nerve. It is not just about adding a good player. It is about answering the biggest question facing this franchise. Are the Warriors really trying to win another title with Steph Curry? Or are they slowly drifting into that dangerous middle ground where loyalty, nostalgia, and half measures keep you competitive but never truly dangerous? If Golden State is seriously chasing a player like Avdija, that signals intent. That signals urgency. That signals an organization that understands the clock is ticking and refuses to waste the final elite years of the greatest player in franchise history. And by the way, hit that like button right now, subscribe if you are new, and comment below with one word: trade or pass. Because this is exactly the kind of move that splits a fan base. Some people see perfect fit. Some people see overreaction. Some people see a smart pivot into the future. Others see a gamble that may not be worth the assets. I want to know where you stand. Now, let's look at the contract angle, because this is where the idea becomes even more dangerous in a good way. If a player of this caliber is making something closer to role player money than superstar money, then Golden State is not just pursuing talent. They are pursuing flexibility. In the modern NBA, value contracts are basically oxygen. They let you build real depth. They let you take bigger swings without detonating the rest of the roster. They let you keep options open. If the Warriors believe Avdija can give them near-star or star-level impact while still fitting financially, that makes the target even more logical. It also matters that Steve Kerr was reportedly connected to the evaluation. Coaches can say they like a lot of players, but when a coaching staff identifies someone as a specific system fit, that carries real weight. It means they can already see the actions. They can already imagine the counters. They can already picture the dribble handoffs, the split actions, the back cuts, the weak side reads, the transition flow, the late-game lineups. Golden State has never been about collecting names just to collect names. At its best, this organization builds lineups that think the game the same way. That is part of what made the dynasty so beautiful and so hard to guard. The age timeline matters too. Steph Curry is still brilliant, but nobody beats time forever. Draymond Green can still flip a game with his defense and IQ, but the nightly physical tax is real. The Warriors cannot only think about right now, and they cannot only think about 5 years from now. They need a bridge player, somebody young enough to matter after the dynasty core ages out, but good enough to matter immediately. That is what makes this whole conversation feel bigger than a random rumor. A move like this would not just be about surviving next season. It would be about redefining the next era without surrendering the current one. There is also something else here that Warriors fans should not ignore. The league has changed. The West is younger, longer, more explosive, and less forgiving than ever. You cannot keep showing up with the same formulas and expect the old magic to solve everything. Teams hunt mismatches faster, they rotate harder, they force non-scorers into decisions. They make aging cores defend in space possession after possession. Golden State can still beat anyone on the right night, but to win at the highest level again, they need another piece who raises both the floor and the ceiling. Avdija, at least on paper, checks that box. Picture a closing lineup with Curry creating panic off the ball, Avdija handling and reading the second layer of the defense, Draymond quarterbacking the action, and 2 interchangeable athletes or shooters around them. That is the kind of lineup that can play fast without being reckless. It can pass without becoming soft. It can defend without sacrificing too much offense. It can toggle between styles. And in the playoffs, flexibility is everything. The teams that survive are the teams that can answer multiple questions in the same series. Golden State has not consistently had enough of those answers lately. Of course, the other side of this is the cost. Portland would not just hand over a player with this kind of value. If talks are real, the asking price is real too. Draft assets, young players, rotation pieces, future flexibility, all of it would be part of the conversation. And that is where the front office earns its paycheck. How much are you willing to sacrifice for a player you believe can extend the championship window? How confident are you that the fit translates under playoff pressure? How certain are you that this is the move that gets you closer to banner number 8? That is the tension, and honestly, that is why this story has exploded the way it has. It is not just a rumor. It is a referendum on what the Warriors believe about themselves. Do they think they are one meaningful piece away? Do they think Steph is still good enough to justify a bold swing? Do they think the system can elevate a versatile forward into something even bigger under Kerr? If the answer to those questions is yes, then this could be the kind of move people look back on as the pivot that gave the dynasty one last surge. And let's not forget how bizarre the origin of this report was. Live television, a source on speaker, an accidental reveal, a studio frozen in disbelief. That kind of moment immediately becomes larger than the information itself. It adds drama. It adds emotion. It adds that feeling that something secret slipped into public view before anyone could stop it. In sports media, those moments spread because they feel raw, unfiltered, almost too real. And when the team involved is the Warriors, every rumor becomes louder because every move around Steph Curry carries championship implications. So here is where I land. If the Warriors truly believe Deni Avdija has become the kind of two-way connective force who can score, defend, pass, and grow into the future while helping right now, then they should be aggressive. Not reckless, but aggressive. The worst thing a franchise can do with a legend like Curry is hesitate into irrelevance. Golden State owes it to its fans, its stars, and its own standard to chase moves that actually matter. If this is smoke, it is fascinating smoke. If it is fire, then Dub Nation may have just gotten its first real glimpse of the off-season plan. And if that plan is real, the rest of the conference should be watching very closely. And one more thing, the emotional side matters. Warriors fans are not asking for a miracle. They are asking for direction. They want to know the front office sees the same urgency they feel every time Curry drops another masterpiece. They want proof this era still deserves ambition, not just appreciation. A move like this would be that proof from the organization itself. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and drop your take in the comments, because I need to hear from you. Would Deni Avdija be the perfect Warriors move? Or is this the kind of blockbuster idea that sounds better on TV than it would on the court?